In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt podcast,
we've got a full episode of your questions and answers, such as
PCP schemes for motorhomes, expensive clean air zones, towing weights, licenses, and more.
And the 12 Daves of Christmas return this weekend at thatleisureshop.com.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast with me, Keith Gooden.
And me, Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights and expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans. And it's all brought to you by thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Remember, please do follow on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and the little bell.
Now, as you may have seen in an episode a few weeks ago, Matt is due his heart surgery. So we're recording episodes ahead of time. So we're recording this in September, even though for the rest of the universe it's December. So apologies if there's been any big news or big developments that we haven't managed to share here yet. We are on it. And if necessary, if it's really big, we will record, what's it called? A codicil, an addendum, a little bit. Yes, an addendum.
You have to do it on your own.
Will I?
Well, I won't be here.
No, you won't.
I'm taking this well-earned break that I'm apparently being enforced to have.
So we're all wishing you a very happy future and recovery.
Thank you very much. I will be delirious. I promise to be happy.
No, he'll literally be delirious.
I will for a few days, I'm sure. I'll be out of it. How do you have a poo in ICU?
Bedpan!
Well, these are the things I lie there at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about.
But it's like being an astronaut, isn't it? They don't
just like being an astronaut, Keith.
They don't
exactly the same.
They don't feed you carbs. So, they always say, like for astronauts when they went to the moon, and it's the traditional breakfast of steak and eggs. It was steak and eggs because you didn't have to.
Okay. Was that what I'm going to get in hospital? Steak and eggs? I can deal with that.
It is the NHS, isn't it?
No, it'd be dry ham sandwich with curly edges.
Mince and onions.
Spam. Anyway, I'm sure I'll be, at this point, hopefully, I'll be on the road to recovery.
It's here! Ho, ho, ho! Ho, 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 ho! Christmas is just around the corner, and it's time for the annual 12 Daves of Christmas. Why is it called that then, Matt?
Because Dave runs the shop.
Keep an eye on thatleisureshop.com because this coming weekend, the 12 Daves start. Just for anybody who's never partaken before, what are they?
Okay, so every day there's a different offer, and it starts this weekend.
From Dave?
From Dave. Now, Dave is the great smiley face behind That Leisure Shop in Hewish, so our North Somerset shop, and we regularly have Dave's deals, and they've become a big project for us with a huge following and some fantastic deals. Every week there's a different offer, and in the lead up to Christmas there's a different offer every day, a Dave's deal every day. So we call it the 12 Daves of Christmas. And
the offers are pretty good, so you got to be quick. And there's a different one every day. So for a cool Yule, then you need to get yourself something from the 12 Daves of Christmas. Where do people go? What do they do?
Just go to thatleisureshop.com, sign up to the newsletter, because we'll be sharing the offer every day, and follow us on socials, That Leisure Shop. But remember, they do run out. So some of them are limited offer only because we've only got so much of the product. So they do sell out. So 12 Daves of Christmas, some great Christmas savings in the lead up to the big event.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Now remember, get 15% off your premium with Ripe. The discount applies automatically if you click the link in the episode description.
Now today's episode, well, it's a peculiar one. It's an odd one. It's a funny one. It's a different one. Different is good.
We had this idea, didn't we, as a way of creating episodes whilst I'm off. And I think they're a great idea.
They are, because we get so many questions given to Motorhome Matt to answer. We thought, let's do one.
Let's do one. I wish you would.
Let's do one.
Come on, let's just get on with it.
Let's do one, or even more.
Oh, no.
Just your questions.
No, not more. One's enough.
First of all, I'd like to get to know you well. Howard Jones!
Hey, there it is.
Oh, hi, Matt. Yeah, it's Howard again from Braintree. Just getting back to you on the emission charge at Portsmouth. So I did ring them up, and it's actually £50 per day. So £50 in and £50 out. So it's a total of £100 extra on your ferry crossing, which to me is still far too high. And once again, I won't be using the ferry anymore.
So, Howard, if you might recall, asked a question because he got done, as he says, by the ULEZ, ultra low emission zone. Where was it? Was it Southampton?
Yeah, on the way to Isle of Wight. So he didn't pay the daily rate and got the fine. And I said, are you sure that isn't a fine that you've been charged, Howard? And so, bless him, he's come back and confirmed, yes, it was the fine he got paid, which was 200 quid or something.
But it's still going to be 50 quid for
it's 50 quid a day.
That's a lot of money.
Government policies impact on tourism. Yeah, let's support British tourism. Let's tax us even more. Honestly, it's a ridiculous thing. I hate the ULEZ zones. I think there needs to be some kind of policy, sure, where we're, perhaps charging for going into the inner cities. But the way the local councils are managing them and just catching us, the same here in Bristol. You want to skirt around the edge. Yeah, a friend of mine has a transport company, the quarry lorries, and it's cheaper for him to pay the fine, or the daily rate, to send the lorries through the centre of Bristol than it is to pay the hourly rate for his drivers to circumvent the city. It's cheaper to send them through the middle of Bristol, which is ridiculous.
It's the same in London as well. My sister lives in deepest, darkest southeast London. You can get to it from the M25 and then the A2. And there's about a mile of road which is subject now to the ultra low emission zone, where you have to either have a vehicle which doesn't pay the charge, or you have to pay the charge. But it's a very short amount of road in a journey from here to London of 2.5 hours, and you do feel, to be honest with you do feel like they are just trying to raise the money. It's got nothing to do with emissions, but maybe it has. Maybe I'm just being cynical.
No, I think you are being cynical. I think you're right. It's not fair. Anyway, there we are.
So sorry about that, Howard Jones, but we'll keep buying.
Yeah, well, Howard's made a conscious buying decision as a result. So there we are. Yeah. Maybe Red Funnel will, change their tune.
David Stockford's in Weston-super-Mare.
Hi, my name's David Stockford from Weston-super-Mare. Been watching your podcast recently and just found you. I've just recently upgraded to a 7.2 metre motorhome, and my first trip away was a bit touch and go because we ended up going down some pretty narrow lanes, and that proved to be quite an issue. Is there an app or a navigation program or device that takes into account the size of the vehicle and then routes you accordingly? Love to hear it from you. Thanks, bye.
Okay then, so is there a way of avoiding those narrow roads? I got caught on the way here for the recording of this with a bin lorry on a country road, which there's passing points, single lane. I understand the bin lorry has to use it. What I don't understand is the 3 white vans and then the 7-tonners behind him that were also using it as a cut through. That before, me and 2 others had to reverse up to let the bin lorry through and then sit there for 5 minutes while the rest of them came down. So something they might think about using in the future, or going down to the next junction. But what is available?
So there's a great app for your mobile phone, a smartphone. It's called Copilot. It does drain your battery quite fast. That's the only thing. I've been using the Avtex Tourer sat-nav. It contains the Garmin database, and you can put the dimensions of your motorhome into these things. The Avtex Garmin Tourer 2, I've been using it for years. The Tourer 3 is now out, and you never know, it might be one of Dave's deals over the next 12 days. So make sure, David, you tune into that. There might be a special offer on it. But we sell it up the road from you in Hewish. So our shop is literally up the road from you across the motorway. So go and pop into that leisure shop and you'll be able to get one there. This is the Avtex Tourer 3. There's also other brands like Snooper, but there are lots out there where you can put the dimensions of the vehicle in. They were originally aimed at lorry drivers, and the motorhome industry's kind of adopted them, or the navigation industry's targeted the motorhome industry with them. So there's lots of choice.
Yeah, and thinking about that, when you're planning your route, I tell you what else is a good handy thing, is Google Earth. You know, if you're unsure, if you're on a B road and you think, well, that looks a bit narrow, take a look at Google Earth and you can actually see a picture of it.
Yeah, I just use Mrs. Motorhome Matt. Then when it goes wrong, I can blame her.
It's all your fault.
Yeah.
Ian's in Swansea. He says, I've been having new cars on PCP schemes. What does that stand for?
Personal contract plan.
Right.
It's a finance product.
PCP schemes of late, which affords me a new car every 3 or 4 years, which is hassle-free driving due to the newness and warranty period, cover, etc. My observation is this also affords the UK to have generally newer, cleaner and safer vehicles on the road.
Ian goes on to say, I assumed I'd be able to find a PCP on a large camper van, yet I can only find Auto Trail offering a PCP option. Whilst Auto Trail have a good-looking product set with a PCP option, why aren't other manufacturers following in the footsteps? Are there other suppliers offering PCP options?
Ian says, I feel the motorhome and campervan industry could and would blossom further to younger drivers and families who are not yet sitting on their nest eggs. Only been listening since December, but great for catching up on all things motorhome. Keep up the good work being done here. Thank you, says Ian in Swansea.
Thanks, Ian. It's a good question. And I asked Stephen Blake this of motorhome.finance at a recent live Warner show where we did a whole episode on Motorhome Finance. So go and check that out. It's released on the 22nd of September 2025. The challenge with PCP is compared to traditional finance where you can have a 10 or 15 year term, PCPs generally are only shorter term. They're 3 or 5 years long with a big balloon at the end. Now, balloon calculation is tricky. A big payment.
Right.
So that final payment at the end of the term. So say you take a 36-month plan, a PCP plan, and then at the end of it is a big payment. Manufacturers are going to want that balloon probably to be about half the value of the motorhome. So 60 grand new, they want the balloon to be 30 grand. They want to spread 30 grand over 36 months. Right. So 3 years.
But don't you usually pay a deposit as well at the
Sometimes you pay 3 months as a deposit,
right.
Yeah, and then you pay 36 months of payments. Well, if you spread that 30 grand over those 39 months, you're into what, 800 quid? I can't do the maths quick enough.
It's a lot of money.
£750 a month, that's a lot of money, yeah. Where the alternative is a spread term of 15 years, you could be paying a few £100s a month, which for the people you signed as the younger generation looking to get into a motorhome, that's far more affordable. And of course, you don't have to keep the motorhome for the full term. You sell it after 4 or 5 years or even less, and you only pay a couple of months of interest to finish off the finance and you pay off whatever's left. So PCP is quite expensive for motorhomes. They also come with loads of terms and conditions, so you have to have it serviced every year. There's usually a mileage cap. There's damage limitations as well, so any damage on it, a little dent or dink in the side of it's going to carry a big cost.
And it's not just the inside. If you're doing a PCP on a motorhome as well, it'll be the stuff inside as well.
Absolutely, yeah, in and out. So it's not been a very popular product, and it's Black Horse that actually underpin this PCP product that Auto Trail offer. And other manufacturers have tried it. It just didn't hit the spot. It was just too expensive per month. That's the reason why. But go and check out the whole episode on Motorhome Finance, because with Steve, we also look at remortgaging, we look at credit cards, so we look at all the ways that you could fund a motorhome. And Maddie, who produces the podcast, said it was actually really interesting for her as someone who's in sort of a younger generation, so late 20s, early 30s. I'm not going to reveal how old Maddie is. I can't remember. And she's laughing at me now. But she's looking to buy a camper van and considering finance. And she said it was really useful for her as someone of that generation looking to buy. So Maddie actually found something I did interesting, which I thought was good.
Yeah, very good indeed. Well, thanks very much for that, Ian. I hope you understand now why PCP isn't necessarily the number one product if you want to own a motorhome. Douglas is in Hamilton, or is it Hamilton in Douglas?
That's very true. It could be either, couldn't it?
Could be, but
I think it's Douglas.
It's Douglas. Sorry, Douglas in Hamilton.
Hello, it's Douglas here in Hamilton, and the question is about the use of airs. And the question is, when you arrive at an air and park your vehicle, if you then decide to go away and do some shopping or touring in the immediate area, how do you reserve your space? What's the etiquette? If you don't reserve your space, can somebody move out of their space and move into yours, say to get a better view? Or does the barrier record that you've left and allow somebody else to come in? You know, if it's really busy, how do you ensure your space on an air? What is the etiquette? Thanks.
Isn't Douglas confusing an air with a campsite?
Absolutely, yeah. So airs are not campsites. They are transient spaces where you arrive and you park up and you move on. So if you leave, that's it. You've left. So, right. Yeah, you're right. That is the confusion here. And my understanding and my own first-hand experience is there is no way to reserve a space. I mean, you could try putting a sign up. I mean, you're not allowed to get your furniture out when you're on an air. You're not allowed to put your awning out. In fact, you're not even meant to level the van.
Just for the newbies, just explain exactly what an air is.
So, very good point. So an air is usually a municipally owned or council-owned space where you can park. Sometimes there's a small charge. Literally might be €5 or €10. Often they're free. Often they have a beautiful view, and it's somewhere you can park in a motorhome or camper van. You have to be self-sufficient, and you're not allowed to get any furniture out and treat it as a campsite. So you're not allowed to get your barbecue out and your chairs and table and so on. And it's somewhere you can park overnight, and then you can move on. I know people who have spent months on very few airs travelling around and not paid for a single night's accommodation. They've all been free. And why not? If you can, then you should. If that's what you want to do. But reserving a space is not normal, and it's not etiquette to do that. Also, it's really hard to book ahead. So I always try and turn up at 2 p.m. because they get busy and park up and then walk into town or cycle into town. So you can leave the motorhome unattended, but if you move it, you've left and someone else can take your spot. However, there are some new apps like Camping-Car Park or Camper Contact, and they have a database of airs where you can actually forward book, so you can pre-book your presence on the air, but they tend to be managed by these apps, and there's usually a charge for staying there. But the best airs, in my experience, are where you can just turn up and camp up or park up and enjoy a night's camping. And often many towns, villages have loads of them on the continent. We have a growing number of them here in the UK. And we've talked at length in the past, haven't we, about trying to corral and encourage councils to dedicate space to airs.
And farmers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, farm shops. Why are park and rides always closed on a Sunday? All that space that we would love to use. So there's lots of reasons why. Perhaps this will be another topic we revisit in the new year. I'm sure it will be. There's a great group on Facebook called CAMPRA, the Campaign for Real Airs. You can join that for free. And they offer loads of resources and advice on how you could approach your local council to see if they can introduce some too.
A French invention, which is why it's called air.
It is a French invention, yes. I wonder what you're going to say there.
Matt, is that NordVPN deal still running?
Yeah, it is. And if you grab their 2-year plan right now, you'll get 4 extra months for free. And of course, there's the 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. But the value isn't just in the saving, it's what you get. I use it every time I'm in the van now, whether it's a campsite Wi-Fi here in the UK or tethering abroad. It keeps my data private, blocks dodgy sites and pop-ups, and it means I can stream TV as if I'm sat at home. Honestly, it's one of those things you don't think about until it's too late. So better to get it sorted now.
The link is in the episode description. Nice and simple. So Steve got in touch with us. Please try and put where you're from when you do set the questions. It helps us and it humanises us all, doesn't it? So he's asking about his C1 licence. What exactly does he want to know then?
So he wants to know if he needs a C1 to drive his new motorhome, which is 3.5 tonne. And the answer is you don't. So the risk is at 70, well, not risk, the fact is at 70 you lose your grandfather rights, so your C1 entitlement, if you were given one when you passed your test.
So you had to pass your test before a certain date, didn't you?
1st of January 1997, and then as we did, because we're old, so we were given grandfather
Motorhome
rights.
Maddie isn't.
No, so Maddie can't drive anything over 3.5 ton,
No.
whereas we can drive 7.5 ton, so a big green parcel machine, a big lorry, so you can get out of the little Mini with L plates on and get into a great big lorry. It seems mad, and I think we saw sense and realised that was a bit daft. So on the 1st of January 1997, everyone who passed their test after that date could only drive up to 3.5 ton, so a panel van or a motorhome at 3.5 ton. So for Steve, you don't need a C1 to drive a 3.5 ton motorhome, and you lose that C1 entitlement. So we revert to a Maddie licence when we turn 70.
70 is a big age, isn't it, for driving licences?
And unless we take a medical and we go and reapply for it, which we can do, and you have to do that every 3 years. Now, currently, those are the rules. This might change. It's changing in Europe, which means it might change here in the UK. But if it does, we'll revisit that on the podcast.
Yeah, and it might change here in the UK, because obviously a lot of people from the UK drive in Europe, and you can't have a situation where they're 70 pluses can drive it and you can't, and it just complicates everything.
Yeah, and the other big factor is if the van is electric, which of course delivery vans are becoming more and more electric, they can be driven on a B licence, which is the Maddie licence, at 4.25 tons without a test. So people say, well, electric delivery vans are useless, they're too heavy. Yeah, because you can now drive them on at 4.25 ton without a test. And so the licence is likely to change to allow us to drive a diesel van at 4.25 tons in the future. But there's a whole episode on that recorded in 2024 at the Malvern Show. Are driving licences changing? So you can go and check out the proposed change, which has been implemented in Europe. We're not part of the EU here, so it hasn't been implemented here, but it might be.
Right, William Bird's in Melksham. I have a motorhome with a gross weight of 7 tonnes, but it never exceeds 6.5 tonnes loaded with everything, including fuel, water, my wife and the dog. I have a trailer with a gross weight of 1.5 tonnes. My licence is a C1 plus E, restricted to 8.25 tonnes gross train weight.
Right.
Can I tow the trailer? Many thanks, and can you explain all that to me,
Okay.
please?
So we've got a theme here, haven't we? So William's motorhome has a gross weight of 7 tonnes. He has a C1, so he can drive 7.5 tonnes. He has a trailer which is 1.5 tonnes, but he's only allowed to drive under his C1 plus E, which is what we have as old men. We can only drive 8.25 tonnes. But if he took his motorhome at 7 tonnes and his trailer at 1.5 tonnes, fully loaded, that would be 8.5 tonnes. He's exceeding what he can drive. Now, William's saying, I never load it that much, therefore I'm only driving it at, say, 8 tonnes. Am I okay? And the answer, William, is no. You're not, because this is about your entitlement to drive and what your licence allows you to drive and what your vehicles could weigh. So you could load them to be 7 tonnes and 1.5 tonnes. You would then be overweight. But I thought, well, hang on a minute. If he stopped and weighed, he'd be under his maximum licence capability. Does that mean it would be okay? So I thought, right, I'm going to go and check this with an expert, and a dear friend of mine, Fliss, known as the Trailer Lady, she came back with me for a comment.
Hi Matt, it's a great question and one that I can answer quite simply. Plated weight will always trump actual weight. So what this means is when it comes to licensing, the plated weight is the one that is governing. So a 7-ton motorhome with a 1.5-ton trailer is going to be 8.5 ton. That is going to exceed the licensing for this gentleman because he has a 107 restriction code, meaning he cannot exceed a train weight of 8.25 ton. So I'm very sorry to say he will not be able to tow the combination that he has got. Loading, actual weight, come into loading offences. So it's still important and he mustn't exceed the train weight of the motorhome, but in this instance it's going to be his licence. Now, off the cuff here, I'm thinking if he's confident that he's only ever got the motorhome loaded to 6.5 ton, that actually he might consider downplating that motorhome to 6.5 ton. Then add on his 1.5 ton trailer and he will be absolutely fine. He'll be within his grandfather rights of 8.25 ton and hopefully his train weight will be good too. But I recommend he speaks to SV Tech about that. Great guys who'll be able to advise him accordingly. I hope you're keeping well, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Fliss.
Thanks, Fliss.
I wish I could say that I really understand this perfectly, but I must admit I don't.
And that's why experts like Fliss exist. So Fliss is all about towing and understanding the licensing side of things. She does driver training for a living. But it is a bit of a can of worms. SV Tech are Motorhome Matt approved, and they are the experts when it comes to upplating and downplating. But basically, William can only drive 8.25 tons based on the vehicle plate, not how much it actually weighs.
Yeah, this is what that plate says.
Yeah.
So you can downplate it, even though it doesn't change anything about what he's actually putting in the motorhome. Nothing changes apart from the plate, and he's legal.
Yeah, that's right. And he'll have a new plate on the front. So that's the only way to do this.
So how do people get Motorhome Matt approved?
Yeah, head to mhmp.info/approved, and there are all the companies, brands and experts, including Fliss, that I can commend to you, either because I've used them, I've known them for years, or worked with them, and they are products and services that I trust to be genuine, and go and check out the whole directory there. We're adding to it all the time.
Andy Frith got in touch.
We talk about approved workshop schemes all the time. What's your opinion on independent mobile habitation specialists?
There you go. Short and sweet. What do you think then, Matt?
I wonder if Andy's an independent habitation engineer that doesn't have membership of the approved workshop scheme. Call me a cynic.
Oh, you're a cynic.
I am, yeah. So are you, Andy? And if you are, fair play. I mean, I know loads that are really good that are not part of the MCEA, the Motorhome Caravan Engineers Association, or the approved workshop scheme run by the National Caravan Council. It doesn't mean they're not any good, not having membership of that. It just means they're not accredited. And the rubber stamp of that, stamp of approval means a lot. And when you're Googling, it's, they're part of the AWS, so they're inspected regularly.
Yeah, it's a way of giving the consumer some confidence.
Some assurity.
This
that's
is what the business we're in.
Yeah. So I often ask the question, if you're so good, why are you not approved? Why are you not part of that scheme? Now, some independent engineers say, well, it's a lot of money and I'm so busy, I don't need to be. I get that, and there's nothing wrong with that. So then if you're thinking of using an engineer mobile or a fixed workshop that is not approved, it's about then reading their Google reviews, Facebook reviews and so on, and really doing your own approval of them, and trust your gut. Go and see them, have a chat with them, look at the workshop, how well equipped is it, how are they conducting themselves, and if you can, speak to some of their customers. And I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem getting some of their customers to give you a review of them. So it's the approval scheme does cost money to be in, and there are lots of guys. I know a guy locally who's just starting up, and he's starting to do these kind of blue ticks, and this approval endorsements, but they take time and they do cost money. And so for Paul, who's just starting out, he's a very qualified gas engineer. He's doing domestic, and now he's doing motorhomes and caravans. As he's building his business, he's brilliant, but yet to get approval. And I'm sure he will in due course. So what's my view on them? It's impossible to give a broad brushstroke answer. I would say check out their reviews. I use one that is not part of a national scheme, and they're fantastic. It does mean, though, I can't put a manufacturer warranted motorhome into them to be looked after. So that's the thing I would check, is if your motorhome is under a warranty, does the warranty provider require the repairer to be part of some approval scheme? Yeah,
it's all about setting a standard. It might not be better, but what it does is trying to give the consumer that peace of mind.
And it also gives the warranty provider the peace of mind too. So if you've had a service done and they're not approved, then they may not consider the service to have been carried out. So don't catch that cold. And you mentioned the gas engineer who's going to turn into motorhomes. Would you have your gas boiler looked at by somebody who wasn't, approved by the big tick? Absolutely, yeah. No, you wouldn't. Of course you would. Well, you might do. You might choose to if your neighbour says, "Oh, I'll have a little tinker," and they might fix it and they might be fine. But what guarantee have you got? We wouldn't recommend that with the gas boiler, by the way. So we really wouldn't. Just give Keith a ring. He'll pop round with his spanners. The University of YouTube is your friend. Give me 5 minutes. Just got to watch the video outside in the car. So that is our Q&A episode. Hope you enjoyed it. How do people get in touch then, Matt? We'd love it if you did. If you've got a question, I always say this. Please please ask it, because I know there will be hundreds of other people with the same question. Just head to mhmp.info/Ask Matt. You can fill in the form and we'll read it for you, or hit the orange button and record it. But please remember, tell us where in the world you are.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, we mentioned it before, then make sure you visit the Motorhome Matt approved directory. It's at mhmp.info/approved.
And if you found this useful or maybe even entertaining, would you leave us a 5-star review? We'd love it if you did. Just head to mhmp.info/review.
And how do people follow us then, Matt?
We'd love that too. Follow us on your favourite podcast app if you're listening, or if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and the little bell.